It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Monday, February the 12th. And yet again, the Kansas City Chiefs are your NFL champions. Brian Zepp, Candace Wheeler. Who won the game? Was it Patrick Mahomes or was it Usher? Really? At the end of the day, who are we going to be talking about down the road?
Taylor Swift, obviously.
Exactly.
She had so much fun. What was that little poodle? Was that Gigi she brought with her in the box?
I missed that. I thought I was up to date on all the Taylor
She had a little
appearances.
poodle lady with her.
Oh, my
I don't know who that was.
Oh, yes.
The woman, you mean?
Ice Spice?
Yeah, I wasn't. I had no idea who that was either. I was.
Yes.
That was a pretty fascinating look. But boy, I tell you what. The game was sensational, and we can discuss certain elements of it. But I do want to ask, because
did you watch the first three quarters?
I did, and I saw. Zepp was a hell of a defensive struggle. I mean, good defenses doing their jobs. So I wasn't too bummed out about it. I was fully anticipating a big finish, and that's what happened. And then when push comes to shove, just obviously don't bet against Mahomes in the clutch, in the pinch, when all the chips are on the table. But before that, though, I do want to say, because I'm worried about, I'm tired of being the old man on my porch. Candace Wheeler, explain to me the greatness of Usher. What am I missing? He's a great performer, an incredible dancer.
Yeah.
The guy looks great, ripped.
He's a nice guy.
I watched that whole halftime show, and all I kept thinking was, I'm going to get on Twitter after this, and all I'm going to see is people saying incredible, iconic, legendary, and I'm just staring at the TV I'm like flatlining watching this performance.
Well, it makes sense that you don't understand or you didn't enjoy it. You're not my age. That was my whole childhood, adolescence flash before my eyes. All of those songs he played from start to finish, it was like 9 years old to 21 years old.
Right.
All of those songs were in that time frame.
Well, while you were playing with toys, I was going to clubs, and I didn't really know much about Usher's music. I mean, as soon as I started hearing it, I thought to myself, oh my God, every douchebag hookup club I ever walked into in downtown Minneapolis back in the 90s, this was the music that was playing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, no, that's what I mean. I will fully admit, I was in such a bubble of my own making at the times we're talking about. Late 90s and the early 2000s, either I was just in my own band bubble or I was just having babies. And so I wasn't out. Those songs, I kept waiting for a song I recognized. The very last one, that okay, I've heard that. I did, but I had no idea that. I was like, oh, that thing that sounds like a squeaky door or whatever. I was like, oh, that's Usher. Okay. And like I said, tremendous performance. I mean, the dancing and the delivery, I mean, I can appreciate that. But I was just sitting there going, wow, this music really did resonate with a whole generation, and I missed every bit of it. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought you were going to be mean to me and really go after him.
No.
I was going to have to school you on
what?
Haterade.
No, I tell you one thing. I'm very pleased because there's a great drummer named Aaron Spears who died a few months ago, who I met a couple times and was one of the loveliest dudes ever. And he played with Usher for years. And if you noticed, there was a drum kit on that stage with no one sitting behind it. What? And that was to pay tribute to Aaron Spears. And when I saw that, I kept waiting for another drummer to come up, and then it never happened. And I went, oh, wait a minute, I bet that's for Aaron, and that's exactly what it was. So by the end of it, he won me over with that move alone. I was like, man, that's awesome. Way to go, Usher. But otherwise, well, okay.
Fun fact, the roller skates, Usher danced on roller skates, which was really impressive to me. But those are Minnesota-made roller skates.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, we're looking for the local connection at all times.
Rydell skates from Red Wing.
Is there a is that something he's known for? Is there a video where he was skating back in the day, or was this just something new? I mean, is Usher?
There's a whole. I did a lot of research last night on
Thank you.
skates.
Yeah, maybe we could get into all of it this morning.
Usher isn't a stranger to roller skating. In 2022, he joined a group of other artists at Rockefeller Center skating. So he has some skates in his Las Vegas residency as well. But yeah, Minnesota made. I thought that was pretty cool.
Fair enough. Speaking of artists who completely eluded me, Drake bet $1.15 million on the Chiefs to win. So, of course, he's feeling pretty good about the way that came in there.
How'd they cover?
Just a win. No cover, just money line, baby. Patrick Mahomes is now the third player to win 3 Super Bowl MVPs, along with Tom Brady and Joe Montana.
He won the MVP?
Yeah. Who else would have?
Who else would you give it to? The kicker, maybe.
Yeah, boy, that was pretty strong. As opposed to the San Francisco kicker, my man Jake Moody out of Michigan. Wow, that extra point he missed. That you could say that was the ball game overall. With special team, you know what? How funny is it? No one ever says the words special teams unless they screw up. And so the Niners had a missed point after attempt, as well as the botched punt where the ball bounced into the guy's foot and then Kansas City recovered. Yeah. That's 8 points in a game, that went to a full overtime period. Whew, boy. I mean, you just don't care about special teams until they screw up. That's almost like a no-win situation. For the 49ers, history is going to tell us they're not going to be anywhere near this game next year. Look at the Eagles this year. In the last 30 years, a Super Bowl loser has not gotten back to the Super Bowl unless they were quarterbacked by Tom Brady. That's all. So, yeah see you later, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And by the way, Zepp, how about you said MVP Patrick Mahomes? Had the Niners won, how about Jennings, that receiver? I think he would have been your MVP. He became only the second guy to catch and throw a touchdown in a Super Bowl and had the red hair going. I mean, he looked great. Yeah. And played a great game, and it was just not to be.
Yep, not to be. there was a lot of great game in there, but I did find about halfway through the third quarter, I was like, what else is there to eat? I'm going to go heat that stroganoff up. I lost interest, and then I found myself getting interested again. Then I lost interest again, and then it just, but hey, there you go. There you have it. Kansas City Chiefs.
Mahomes
won a Super Bowl.
You know, the difference, people used to pick apart your guy, Terry Bradshaw, and say, he's not that special. And it's like, no,
he wasn't, by the way.
But it's special to always make the right play when you most need it. That is something most people don't have. And
no, he took his good old sweet time. I thought with 2 minutes left, when they gave the ball back to him, I thought, you bow wrapped it for him. Mahomes, he didn't get it done. And credit the 49ers defense. The 49ers came out with the kind of start that I thought that they may get.
Yeah.
But instead of putting up 20 points on the Kansas City Chiefs, who clearly didn't come to play a Super Bowl, they came to celebrate a Super Bowl. They came thinking about winning, and I thought the 49ers came into the game thinking about football.
Yeah.
But the McCaffrey's fumble and then the penalty, they did it to themselves. But credit that 49ers defense that really hung in there. I'm already tired of talking about this game.
You know what, to your point, though, you're right. Yeah. Kansas City played 3 flawless playoff games and then picked the Super Bowl to come in distracted or otherwise. Like you said, they were thinking about winning, and San Francisco was thinking about playing early on. But, like in overtime, it's 4th and 1 for the Chiefs, and if they don't get that first down, the game is over. I had no doubt. There was not an ounce of a percent of doubt that Mahomes was going to get that first down to me. I was like, he's going to figure out something. And if it had been reversed with Brock Purdy, it would have been pins and needles. Just about any other quarterback in the league, you'd be like, oh man, this is something. And I was literally like, well, stop. There's no way Mahomes doesn't get this first down, and then he picked up about 6 yards. It's just he's just got that thing, like every play's not special, but boy, when special is required, that dude delivers. At the end of the day, nothing but respect for Mahomes. He's a freak.
Yeah, exactly. I loved Jason Kelce streaking onto the field shirtless. I thought that was a fun touch.
Strong. And by the way, did you see how he arrived to the game? He was dressed. Like what's his name from The Hangover, the Wolfpack dude. He was wearing his exact getup.
Zach Galifianakis.
Man, that was strong.
And I don't think there's any doubt now that Antonio Brown's out of the league that Travis Kelce is the biggest douchebag in football.
That was really scary. I mean, I don't really like that Andy Reid guy. Kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, but just see him
because he's fat and old. That's
No,
all
I
right.
don't
He's
know,
still
just-
jiggling. From
Whatever.
getting
I don't know anything
hip
about
checked
him.
there.
It's
Yeah.
I don't have any ground to say that. But it was just like really kind of scary to see the scream. Like that made me like, ugh.
Well, that's football. That's
Heat
passion.
of competition, baby.
That's That's
scary.
passion.
I was surprised
All
he just immediately started talking about next season. I thought he was going to pull the plug on a great career just because he was so beat up for most of the year. But I guess not. He's running it back. And right now, I think you're nuts to bet against anybody but the Chiefs for next year. I'm saying, until someone else beats them, it just. I can't believe we have back-to-back dynasties in a league that's designed to not have dynasties.
No, as long as you've got that coaching staff with Patrick Mahomes,
Yep.
why bet against anyone else? All right. Well, hey, speaking of the Super Bowl, we've got a Mike Evans Super Bowl report, which basically is a Hollywood report. That was a Hollywood Super Bowl for sure. Coming here quickly. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Right now, it is time to head west for the Mike Evans Hollywood Report. Michael.
Good morning. Good morning, Steve.
Good to talk to you, brother.
Great to talk to you. I said when something special would happen, I'd be on. What did you think of the game last night?
I thought it was fantastic. A total two great defenses going back and forth for a while, and then when push came to shove, the best player in the league showed up and did what he does.
At his age, 28, do you think Mahomes is better than Brady?
He's playing at a level Brady never did. I think he's the best quarterback, generally speaking, I've ever seen 6 years in, but he's going to have to stick around a whole lot longer to take the GOAT crown.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Somebody joked in Kansas City this morning. They said, well, the only thing that could have been better is if maybe Mahomes turned his ankle at the end of the game and Taylor Swift came down and threw a pass to Travis to win the game. Come on, man. Come on now.
Hey, you know what? Let's give Taylor props. She didn't get up on that stage. She stayed out of the way.
Yep.
Let the team have their thing. And so in that regard anyway, well played, Taylor.
Absolutely. But the first half, man, it looked like Kansas City met the enemy, and it was them. Made mistakes and fumbles and penalties that were ridiculous. Just
crazy. Just
not good. Things to look forward to. We'll check it out. May, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition will feature Brittany Mahomes, and I've seen the pictures, and she looks gorgeous in the bathing suit. So they're going to use all the runway they can on that.
Sure.
And I'm hearing from some pretty reliable sources that Vegas is willing to pay $1 billion to the NFL to keep the Super Bowl in Vegas every year. What say you, Steve?
That's nuts. Never happen. I think that would be terrible. I don't think the league, it does. I don't think it serves the league any purpose. They got to bring that thing around to other cities.
I would think so too, but the league and money. It'll be interesting to see. It was a surprisingly good game because after the first half, I thought Kansas City was out of it. And a reminder of this report brought to you by our friends over at Marcus Theaters. And tomorrow's Tuesday. Time to go see a Marcus Theater for only $6. Miss you guys. Love you guys. Everybody okay? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, rocking and rolling, Actually,
Anthony, Candy, okay? Everybody okay?
We're all good, brother.
Good,
Everyone's
good.
hanging in.
Terrific. Hey, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.
All right, Mike Evans right there. Off the bench, the rare live report. Good to hear from old Mike.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes' wife now in the swimsuit issue.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But suffice to say, for football fans, as I mentioned earlier, the league is literally designed for parity. Like this league goes out of its way to not have dynasties, and now, the Patriots run off 20 straight years of excellence, and now we're 6 years into, the Chiefs dynasty. It's a little frustrating for a whole lot of other football fans out there. But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Beat them. Put together a better team.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I tell you what, let's take a quick look back. Lee Trevino, great pro golfer. I'm just gonna one of my favorite quotes of all time. My family was so poor they couldn't afford kids. The lady next door had me. Makes no sense, and it's hilarious. On this day, February 12th, 1988, the world was introduced to Eddie the Eagle.
Oh, yeah, Eddie the Eagle. I remember some friends of mine had to get to the Calgary Olympics to see Eddie the Eagle jump, and they were on TV. They were in lawn chairs down there at the bottom of the jump, and I was like, oh, my God, this is my buddy Drew.
Eddie the Eagle was an English guy who watched some ski jumping on TV one day and went, I think I want to go do that. And he did, and he was terrible. But nobody else from England wanted to be a ski jumper, so he somehow made the team. So real quick, in the 70 meters, he scored 69.2 points. The second worst competitor had 140 points, okay? Yeah. Now, from the 90 meter, he scored 57 points. The next horrible guy was at 110. So not only was he the bottom feeder, he was like twice as bad as the other bad skiers at these Olympic Games. Got the nickname Mr. Magoo, literal Coke bottle thick glasses. But what a fun guy. And by the way, the Olympics changed a rule after that year, making it far more difficult to get in. Like, Olympic hopefuls had to be in a bunch of events and placed in the top 30% of a lot of things leading up to it. Like, they were like, you know what, we can't have people just walking in off the street and getting in anymore. And that right there, in case you need another reason why the Olympics suck, is why the Olympics suck.
Yeah, right. If you remember, because I was watching at that time, because my friends went up there, it was a phenomenon. It was packed. That event, probably had more people than any other event, packed. And as soon as he jumped, and then the stars were coming out, the ski jumping stars were coming out, everybody left.
Yeah.
Imagine.
It's awesome.
I won the gold medal, and your mom and, and a couple of people are standing around. Eddie the Eagle, that joke, that farce of a ski jumper Olympian, had 50,000 people clamoring around.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Monday, February the 12th. In a few hours, about 9 a.m., we're going to speak with Greg Harris. Who is Greg Harris? He is the president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who announced their not their inductees, but their nominees for this year's class. And the man we just heard, Candace Wheeler's father from another family time, granddad, whatever, Candace Wheeler's guy, Ozzy Osbourne, is a nominee for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the first time as a solo artist. He is, of course, already in as a member of Black Sabbath. Candace, your feelings?
Oh, I'm just so happy. I'm glad he's happy about it, too. He's excited.
Yep.
So just would love to see him on that stage. Enjoying
I'm going to make a prediction right here.
Let's have it.
And the person that inducts him, Kanye West.
Boy, Kanye's making friends fast, isn't he? But not only Ozzy Osbourne, somebody else I just saw too. Kanye has been calling people and asking if I can sample one of your songs for my new hit single that's sure to be burning up the charts. And Ozzy said, no, you may not. And then Kanye used it anyway.
Oh, and the Queen, Donna Summer.
That's right, Donna Summer's family. That's right. Hey, listen, I love Donna. You think I can use her husband? Like, no, not a chance. Yeah, and he just uses it anyway. But Ozzy famously back in the day was opposed to this incredibly when Black Sabbath went in. Black Sabbath went in 2006, and a few years before that, he had said, take our name off the list, save the ink, forget about it. The nomination is meaningless because it's not voted on by the fans. And then Black Sabbath was inducted, and he said, thanks. But now, and to your point, Candace, I'm happy to hear him say it. His post on social media Saturday was, I'm deeply honored to receive this news. To be one of the few musicians who's being considered for a second entry now as a solo artist is something I never could have imagined. After 44 years as a solo artist, the fact I can continue to record music and receive this recognition is something I'm incredibly proud of. He was in Black Sabbath for 11 years, and now 44 years as a solo artist. Unbelievable.
Not only did he not write that, he never even read that.
Of course. That's right.
Yeah, come on, man. Where's the rebellion? Who else is going in? Anyone? I mean, he's a shoo-in. Ozzy's the man, right?
I think he's a shoo-in. The other one that jumped off the page to me for an entirely different reason is, for the first time nominated, Foreigner. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fantastic. They're the ultimate. They've always been like the sort of litmus test for how can this band that sold 80 million records and whose first 4 albums were just as big as any band of their era have never even been considered. And the answer was always Jan Wenner, the Rolling Stone founder, who's one of these guys. He just kept everybody at bay that was quote unquote corporate rock, or that wasn't hip and cool. And Foreigner was never hip or cool. They were just great.
Yeah, right.
So now there's a new guard running the joint, and Foreigner is now nominated. I don't know that they'll get in. I would actually bet they probably won't, but at least seeing them in there shows somebody at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has taken their head out of their ass and recognized. By the way, this band is still played on radio stations all over the world every day, all day long.
Yeah, I mean, they at least deserve the nomination. I think they deserve to be in personally, but what does that matter? That won't buy you much. Anything on Mariah Carey?
I love Mariah Carey, another one that I grew up with. I think
she's coming up right after Zeppelin. We're sandwiching her right between Zeppelin and the Mariah Carey.
We all know that the Rock Hall
everybody
isn't
knows.
rock and
Yes,
roll
exactly.
Anymore, so it's okay.
Right. Sure, it's all right.
I'm always okay with it because and here's my justification to not get angry. But I mean, it's real, but I have to remind myself every year, which is rock and roll originally is a patchwork. It's a stew. It's folk, it's country, it's blues, it's jazz. Yeah. It's all of the traditional American, the things that formed rock and roll. And so by extension, anything in pop music, counts. Like there's a rock and roll element. I mean, rock and roll is a wide, it's a huge tent, if you will. So I get that. Personally, I'm fine with Mariah Carey having never been mentioned around the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I get to thinking, the other one I wanted to mention real quick, Peter Frampton, first time nominated. Mm-hmm. And he said that he's actually spoken to people at the Rock Hall of Fame who were like, wait, you're not already in? Like people thought he was already inducted. He's been eligible since 1997, which last I checked is, almost 30 years ago.
It's a while back.
Yeah, it's a while back. So, but first nominations also, as long as we're here, hell, screw it. Sinead O'Connor, Oasis, Lenny Kravitz, Jane's Addiction, second nomination. Cher, oddly enough.
Cher deserves it, man.
You think?
Yeah, why not?
That's true. I mean, hey, she's still... Okay, we'll see. But hey, you know what? Again, we're talking to Greg Harris at 9, who runs the joint. We've had him on a few times. He's a great dude. Always interesting to get his thoughts on this. That's coming up at 9 o'clock. Also at 9:30, Chris Hardwick is calling in. Hardwick, who's originally, Nerdist guy and a dude who hosted The Talking Dead and who has done a billion things in show business. And he's a lovely fella and always good to catch up with Chris Hardwick. So that's coming up at 9:30. The Super Bowl happened yesterday. Don't know if anybody caught that. Super Bowl 58. There's one thing that I will forever think is absolutely hilarious about Super Bowl 58. And here's what it is. In the second quarter of the game, San Francisco's kicker, Jake Moody, who's had a couple of important misses throughout the season, he drilled a field goal from 55 yards away to open up the scoring. That made the game 3-0, and that was the longest field goal in Super Bowl history. Mm-hmm. The record had stood for
forever.
The record had been in place for 31 years.
Yeah, he's going to have a run with that one. I don't think anyone ever breaks that record.
And in the third quarter, less than 2 hours later, the record was broken by his counterpart for the Chiefs. Harrison Butker kicked a 57-yard field goal. It's the funniest thing ever. Yeah. Jake Moody, it's like, oh my God, he lined up for that kick. And I said, there's no way this kid's making this kick. And he drilled it. It was a low, really low, but plenty of distance. And I thought, holy crap, that guy just kicked that ball 55 yards because he's not the most consistent kicker in the world. And literally, it's like a big deal. That's a Super Bowl record. That puts his name, at the top of a list that people like us will remind ourselves year in and year out. And again, less than 2 hours later, never mind, the guy from the Chiefs beat him by 2 yards. That was just, and then later in the fourth quarter, he missed an extra point that probably was the difference in the game. Because Kansas City was down by 3 instead of 4. Their late in the fourth quarter field goal to send it to overtime there would have been a mandatory touchdown for the Chiefs had Jake Moody just not dribbled that extra point right into the hands of the defense. A really low kick. It was on him. Whew, baby.
What I have a feeling Mahomes would have then turned that instead of 3 points and settling for the overtime. Mahomes would have just scored on the fourth and whatever down there. It just kind of seemed like it was meant to be. But that's a big extra point. And in a Super Bowl when that happened, that extra point's missed during the regular season. You're like, it could have something. But you just had a feeling that point was going to come back to haunt him, and maybe it did.
There's a bunch of interesting things, and people who spend their life gambling in the NFL pay really close attention to all the stats and the details, but this kind of stuff is fascinating to me endlessly. So Andy Reid, coach of the Chiefs, Kyle Shanahan, coach of the Niners, this is the fourth pair of head coaches to face each other in multiple Super Bowls. These two teams played 4 years ago. These two head coaches, they met in a Super Bowl for the second time. And now there have been 4 head coaching rematches, and the coach who wins the first one is 4-0 in the rematch. That's incredible to me. There's just something in the mojo of, I beat you last time, I'm going to beat you again. I mean, it's just it's uncanny the way certain things like that line up. But fascinating to me to think that 4 times coaches have had a rematch, and all 4 times the same coach won. I mean, the coach that won the first one won the second one as well. What are you going to do? For the first time in a long time, I found myself enjoying several of the commercials. Like, legit thought there were some really good ones. Did you guys feel the same way?
There are a couple. I liked the Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger one. That was really funny.
State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut. Hey, Arnold.
The neighbor, when he kept going with neighbor. Finally, Danny DeVito comes in to deliver the line. I have a hard time. You think you have a hard time remembering Super Bowl stats and facts and who won a year removed? Yeah, there's so many damn commercials, and every once in a while I'd be like, oh, that's kind of touching. I've had just enough beer. That's kind of touching. That's really funny, right? I know, where I have an emotional moment right before I drink it away and go, this sucks. But anyway, but then the next day I'm trying to remember these ads. I like the Christopher Walken surrounded by people impersonating him.
Excellent.
Where else do you go with that? That wasn't bad. I like the Parks and Rec duo, Aubrey Plaza and Nick Offerman riding dragons. That was kind of cool.
It's me, America's sweetheart, and I just love having a blast. But Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
America's sweetheart.
Having a blast. Stuck in an elevator, having a blast. Winning, losing, having a throat me already.
Blast.
Yeah, I missed that one. But Aubrey Plaza calling herself America's sweetheart in itself is pretty hilarious. Yeah. I thought the Paramount Plus commercial with a ton of stars, Drew Barrymore and what's his name, just with everybody, Tua, the Dolphins quarterback. I didn't like it at first, and the more it went, I was like, actually, this is really well done, and everybody's got the tone. It was well put together. And then the one I did not want to like at all, but actually did you see the BetMGM ad where Tom Brady has won enough so he's no longer allowed to win? I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I thought I liked that behind the back pool shot in his really glittery cowboy outfit there. But I thought that was clever. And Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. Yep.
He's always cool to see on screen, and Brady's acting makes Vince Vaughn look like an even better actor and more natural. So, I thought that one was pretty good too. I'm trying to run down some of the commercials that I thought were pretty cool. The Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I thought that was okay because
Damon saved it.
Yeah, as soon as the Duncan ad, the whole thing with Jennifer and Benifer and the whole thing, I was like, I'm over it. But Matt saved it. Yeah, you're right. I thought he came in with a nice cameo.
She came to my work. Now I got to show her what I can do.
What up, Bronx? For your consideration, here comes the Boston Massacre. The Duncan.
All right.
Who do you think's waking up in the worst mood today? It's got to be Niners coach Kyle Shanahan. One last little just nerdy stat thing. 3 times in Super Bowls. This includes this Super Bowl this year, the one 4 years ago, and then he was the offensive coordinator for Atlanta in the greatest Super Bowl collapse of all time. 3 times he has had 10-point or more leads, and he is 0-3. He cannot help himself. He needs to run the ball with a 10-point lead, and he insists on passing it. In San Francisco's first 3 drives of the second half, they were ahead 10-3. He called for passes on 8 of the first 9 snaps, and it did not work. And he just does this every single year.
Was driving Tony Romo nuts, by the way. Go back to running the ball, and that's how they came out, and they went back to it. I really thought that where they settled for 3 and they were just driving it because they had a pretty solid effort from the Chiefs' defense, but they had them on their heels, and they had wore them down, which is what you want to do. His dad was brilliant at that when he was with the Broncos, just running and running and running until the defense just collapses.
And you know what? And I he loves his dad. He speaks so highly of him. They have a great relationship, but he's trying to put his own spin on it to show his dad he can be better. In 3 Super Bowls, his teams have been outscored 74-29 after halftime. And He's as brilliant an offensive mind as there is in the league. I saw somebody had said, you don't have to be the cleverest guy. You just got to be the smartest guy. And 3 times you should have closed out a Super Bowl, and now you're 0-3. And that's a problem. And it is. I mean, as great a coach as he is, it's like, dude, you have double-digit leads in the second half of Super Bowls. I think in the history of the Super Bowl, that's only a team has only been down by more than 10 points and won 6 times total, and he's got 3 of them. That's bad, man. Whew.
He needs to quit playing against people like Andy Reid and Spagnuolo and those coaching staffs. He needs to get in there, some one-off team. Like maybe if the Lions, I know they're in the same division, the National League, and that's why I think the 49ers will maybe rise again. He is the kind of coach that would get you there, but he's not getting the job done. By the way, got to mention Leo Chenal. You talk about the linebacker for the Chiefs, number 54, Leo Chenal. Had that block on the extra point that you talked about, that big block, and a pretty good game. Right up the road here, Grantsburg, Wisconsin. Hummer, thanks for the text this morning. I know they're listening up there and awfully proud of the local kid.
That's
with
great.
A couple of Super Bowl rings right now. So I want to get that in there as well. We'll probably get back to the Super Bowl yet this morning, but today, Monday, also not the obvious day to call in sick. Who would call in sick on Super Bowl Monday? It's just so obvious, isn't it? Who thinks they could get away with that? Unless that's the perfect day to call in sick. I'm teasing a coworker of mine right now, but today is also Darwin Day. It's a day set aside by remembering those who were responsible for taking themselves out of the gene pool in Darwinic fashion.
Bless
the
them all.
Darwin Awards. Yeah, we've got some Darwin Awards to talk about here at 7:30. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Monday, February the 12th. Good morning. Our buddy Tony Lee is out today. He's under the weather. Tony, get well soon, brother. We miss you. It's always tough to get through the show without one of the team here. But you know what? If we lived at a certain place in the state of Kentucky, like say Paris, Kentucky, this wouldn't even matter. Paris, Kentucky doesn't have quite the same ring as Paris, France, or Paris, la France, but Paris, Kentucky, over in the eastern part of the state. Everybody called in today because every student anyway. Here's the deal. The superintendent of schools canceled school today ahead of time because of the Super Bowl.
Oh.
Yeah.
The district, they put it to a vote every year down there, the topic of whether Super Bowl Monday should be a holiday. We talked about it last week. It comes up. And the superintendent of schools, Stephen McCauley, put it up to a vote of the school board, and they just immediately went, boom, done. Yeah. So instead of having a long President's Day weekend, the schools will observe Super Bowl weekend. McCauley said no need to rush the kids to bed at halftime or leave the parties and taco dip early. At Paris City Schools, we understand schools should adjust to fit real life. Enjoy the game and cheer on your favorite team. My man should run for governor of Kentucky now.
But you know, if they did that for everyone else, we would still have to work. They'd still force us to work because we got to talk about it.
Well, sure. But that's okay. But then we could pretend that we're happy for everyone else.
Yeah, tell that to Tony Lee.
Yeah.
That's weird. I'm surprised he didn't make it in this morning. He seemed fine. I talked to him about 6:30 last night. He was just hammered. I said, all right, talk to you in the morning. He's like, I'll be there, man. You can count on me. No. He actually checked out way before the Super Bowl festivities started, not feeling well. But, yeah, no, this is brilliant. And we talked about it last week. I mean, we're so close now with the Super Bowl being pushed into almost the middle of February and President's Day next weekend. Let's do it. Let's get these suckers, move one back, move the other one up, whatever you've got to do, and make it a 3-day weekend. I mean, it's just time has come.
Is President's Day? Is it? I mean, everyone's happy to have a holiday, but it's not like there's a moment in time where anybody takes a day, no one takes a minute on President's Day to go, I was going to sit here and quietly contemplate the genius of George Washington. That doesn't happen. Abraham Lincoln, it's like,
favorite presidents.
Let's see, Lincoln. Yeah, it's a fascinating character. What a man. What a time. What a beard. No one's thinking about that. Right. However, everyone's thinking about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, we just sort of concoct. First of all, the presidents don't need their own damn day. It's a public office, and they've served, and some have been fantastic, others. Anyway, moving along, my point being that, it's just a linen sale now anyway, a mattress sale anyway. So, yeah, you're right. We sort of forced a 3-day weekend, and good for us for doing that. Yeah. Let's take it one step further. And because we're not going to get back-to-back 3-day weekends. That's too much to hope for. I'm trying to be realistic here. Let's, like I said, move it up, do a little jockeying around here and make her happen the 3-day weekend. Everyone wants it. And we don't have to be here to talk about it.
President's Day.
Play this show next year.
President's Day right there next to Arbor Day in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plant a tree.
You be quiet. I want the day off.
Plant a tree for George Washington. Yeah. That's what we should combine those two. Give us Super Bowl Monday and let's combine Arbor Day and President's Day. The cherry tree. Wait a minute. That is a good connection. Yep. The guy chopped down the cherry tree. I'm glad we could fix this.
We've come up with a solution. It's been spearheaded. Don't let some principal in Kentucky be the hero here. Come on, somebody in Minnesota step up here and do the right thing.
So it's not Super Bowl Monday. It's not actually a holiday. It is, however, Darwin Day. Every year, this is a day where we celebrate the achievements of Charles Darwin. Incalculable effort and impact on the way we understand biology and how things evolve over time. So Darwin Day, however, celebrates also those who are responsible for increasing humanity's chance at lasting by taking themselves out of the gene pool. A lot of just incredible examples year in and year out. Every year you get these stories and you're like, wait, this actually happened? It's kind of shocking. But Darwin Day, some all-time greats, probably the greatest ever when you just think about the end result especially, and that's 6 people that drowned. Now, this is not that on itself is terrible. 6 people drowned in Egypt in a well. Okay, the reason this happened, a chicken fell into a well. And so an 18-year-old went down in, we're not talking about like a backyard well that you may be picturing that's 12 feet deep. It's 60 feet deep. Ooh. He drowned because an undercurrent in the water pulled him down. Oh. His sister and 2 brothers went in one by one to help him. Problem is, none of them can swim.
Oh.
They also drowned. And then a couple of neighbor elderly, this guy was 18 years old. His siblings were all like, same teens or 20s. 2 elderly farmers came over to help. They went down. And by the way, at what point on the 60-foot as you're descending, by the time you're at 45 feet, are you not thinking, hey, wait a minute, everyone else is having trouble here. What am I going to do differently? These 2 elderly gentlemen were also pulled down. All 6 bodies were pulled out of the well eventually. You know who else came out of the well? The chicken, fully alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
The chicken survived. 6 human beings did not.
Wow. And that well water, I mean, who wants it now?
I mean, here's my question. Was the chicken able to do math, or could it paint? What was so great about this damn chicken? Did it speak? Did it speak the language?
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe it was some sort of religious chicken. Maybe it was a divine chicken. Mm-hmm. We don't know.
Could have been.
But
could have been.
Yeah. No. Wow, that's trash. This is one Darwin Award that I could have easily earned, I guess, in my lifetime. This kind of stuff happens to me all the time. I just don't die. Protesting motorcycle helmet laws in New York. A man was participating in a helmetless protest ride. Yeah, when he was killed after flipping over the handlebars and fatally hitting his head.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you get a Darwin Award.
His fellow riders were like, call it internal injuries. Anything but a head injury.
His head's fine.
Damn it.
God dang it.
I like this. A hunter in Iran was shot to death by a snake.
What?
Apparently, and these are all documented and verified, a snake coiled around a man's shotgun after he had pinned the reptile to the ground. So I'm assuming this is a large snake. The guy tried to catch the snake alive by pressing the butt of his shotgun behind its head. The snake coiled around the butt and pulled the trigger.
Come on.
Blasted the dude. Killed him right on the spot.
That snake had a...
Oh, and by the way, speaking of snakes, here's 2 from Maryland, a state for which I have great affection, a lot of family there. In Montgomery County, a homeowner had a snake infestation in his house. He was just sick of finding snakes. So he didn't, get online, or in the old days, this would have been go to the Yellow Pages. He didn't think, let me find someone who knows how to get rid of snakes. He thought, I think I could probably smoke them out. So he put burning coals on his basement floor, which then started a fire. Probably did smoke out the snakes. I mean, snakes aren't going to hang around, and snakes don't like smoke as much as anybody does. So, of course, the fire also spread and burned his house all the way to the ground. A complete and total loss. Now, he did not die himself. He got out without any human injuries, but still.
Yeah. That's a Darwin Award, buddy. You can put that right there where your mantle used to be.
Yeah.
We had the guy that tried a couple of years ago. A guy tried to kill a spider in his house using the old aerosol can with the Bic lighter.
Boy. Yeah.
Burned the place to the ground. I'm sure the spider made it out alive. Here's another one of those. I talked about the guy going over the handlebars on the motorcycle. This is a Darwin Award. A handicapped man rammed his wheelchair into elevator doors 3 times. He was irritated. The elevator had gone without him. Didn't get in. So he's just ramming the door in a little wheelchair rage. Elevator
Come
rage.
on.
The door opens up as he
did.
goes to ram it again. Yeah, and he plunges down an empty elevator shaft to his death, as the doors could not withstand the force of his chair. Safety regulations were strengthened after he made the world a better place with his idiotic elevator rage.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Hopefully we're learning something from these cases. Oh, I said I had 2 snake stories from Maryland. The second one, in a town called Pomfret, there was a welfare check on a gentleman after nobody had heard from him for a few days. Authorities went into this man's house. They found 124 snakes in this house, including a black mamba,
Ooh.
a king cobra, and several rattlesnakes. But it won't come as a shock that he died. He was killed from what they call envenomation, as in venom. One of his snakes got to him. And the craziest part about this, his neighbors had no idea he had any snakes, much less 124, most of them venomous snakes, living in his house.
That was just a matter of time. What a weirdo. What a creep.
I wouldn't want to know, I would want to know, I should say, if a neighbor of mine had like a piranha in a fish tank. You know what I mean? Like, it can't hurt me if it's out of the fish tank. I'll laugh at it. But still, if you have something that can attack me and hurt me in your house, I want to know about it. 124 snakes?
Yeah, they get out of things. There's little holes. Snakes get into houses, so they can very easily get out of houses. And just imagine what it's like just maneuvering around, getting a bowl of cereal, taking a piss in the middle of the night when you have 120 venomous snakes. Where do you step? Where do you sit? Yeah.
Well, he kept them. They were in like they all had like pens or like a little thing, like whatever you call them. But obviously one got out as a snake will do eventually.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not. I mean, even if they weren't free range snakes inside the house, there. I mean, you've got 120 venomous snakes. They're going to get out. There's going to be one just that you overlooked. You know, that one troublemaker. Like when you have a couple of cats and there's the one cat that always gets into stuff, there's going to be the one snake that gets out. And, yeah, what a weirdo. What a creep. How about a wife tossing a Darwin Award? During a heated marital dispute, 25-year-old man picked up his 20-year-old wife, threw her off her 8th-floor apartment balcony.
Oh, Lord.
Now, this is poetic justice, I think. She became tangled in the power lines below. She did not fall to her death. You know, and she, I guess, wasn't touching the right combination of lines. She didn't fry. He immediately leaps from the balcony, fell towards his wife, missed the power lines, plunging to his death. She managed to swing over to a nearby balcony and was saved. And he got what was coming to him, I guess.
Wow. I wonder if he was trying to finish the job or if he was remorse-ridden and was just trying to kill himself at that point.
We'll never know.
I guess not. And it's probably better that we don't.
Yeah, probably better that we don't.
My favorite Darwin Award, this is from a few years ago, is this guy, John Allen Chow, who decided that he would be the first guy in literally centuries to get through to an off-limits island that's got a 60,000-year-old tribe that has retained complete separation from the rest of the modern world. There's an island. It's near India. For literally, it's called the Sentinelese is the name of this tribe. Nobody has had contact with them in hundreds of years. The last time people really made an honest-to-God effort was like in the 1800s, and a bunch of British folks showed up to, they're like, we're going to bring them the gospel, and they were all immediately wiped out and destroyed by these islanders. They have an island. Nothing from the modern world is there. These guys still exist. They are on an island without a single modern. Not only do they not have anything modern, they're unaware of the modern world. They have their own. Basically, the Indian government at some point said, you know what, just let them be. And so we can observe them from afar. Scientists have a little bit of information about them, but they're well on their way. But this one dude said, I'm going to bring them the gospel. This is just a few years ago. And he went to 6 fishermen in the area and bribed them. Said, just get me over to that island. And they're like, we can't do that. No one can go near there. He said, no, here you go. Bribes them. He gets dropped off close by, has a kayak. He paddles up to the kayak, and there are the fishermen who got him within striking range of the island are sitting there in their boats watching. He's immediately attacked with arrows as soon as he sets foot on the island. And then the fishermen watch the natives. They put a rope around his neck and they drag him along the shore. They're just like, no, we're not going to be here. And he just said he left one of his last messages before he left. He said, I just want to see these people around the throne of God worshiping in their own language. It's like, no, bud, that's not how this works. They have literally been left alone since the 1800s. A dude in a kayak is not going to be the breakthrough that you think it is.
I mean, just think, how annoyed we are when someone comes knocking on the door and wants to, do a little preaching to us. These people, they just weren't. I wonder if this guy went to heaven.
Think about how excited those guys on the island were because, for generations, like the people that were shooting this guy there was like their dad, their granddad, their great granddad. They never had a chance to attack an interloper. Like nobody has tried. But they're just still waiting. Think about that, man. That is some diligence right there. Hey, man, think about it. Think about how quickly we forget threats around here. Something happens, you're diligent. One generation later, everybody's like, what's the big deal? It can't happen again. And that's why history continues to repeat itself. Not these guys on this island. For 200 years, they're like, is anybody coming? No. See you? Nope. Okay, good. All clear. Anybody coming? And then finally, think about that. There's a kayak. Oh, my God, there's a kayak. No, you're making things up. No, it's a kayak. Oh, they must have been so excited. It's like you've waited 190 years for the sun to come out. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my God, this is what we've been waiting for.
Celebration. And then the old guy is going, see, we told you. You got to keep your eyes on the horizon out there. You want to win them over. Bring them some pizza and some booze or something, an iPad. The gospel, that's a bit outdated. It's not getting the job done.
If you're gonna break through to this island, you've got to have airdrops with drones. You got to you got to do something. You got to set the table.
Right, exactly. Yeah, just drop a whole bunch of Pizza Hut pizzas on the place and then come in like a month later. They'll be welcoming you. Come on in. Come. Is that the pizza guy you think? He might be. Let's bring him in. Of course, you better have some pizza with you. I'm just saying.
It's pretty great. Hey, real quick, I did want to remind everybody, you can stream 92KQRS on your phone. Listen anywhere you go. You can also tell your smart speaker, hey, play 92KQRS. It is just that easy.
I have a story coming up here at 8 o'clock I think we're going to get into. Parents fuming after this teacher allegedly lists some students' art for sale online. I thought teachers could. I thought once you handed in your assignment, it was the teacher's property. I don't know. Oof. But, some people are awfully fired up that this teacher was involved with that. We're going to get to that story here in about 10 minutes is all. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Monday, February the 12th. The Kansas City Chiefs are yet again Super Bowl champs. That's back-to-back for the first time in over 20 years since the Patriots did the same thing. 6 years in, this is certainly a dynasty in the making. If they win 3 in a row, if the Chiefs go up next year and receive that trophy, they will be the first ever three-peat team in NFL history. And if it, before you say, oh, it's just not going to happen, well, this was the year that everybody was supposed to catch up to them. They weren't the best team in the league throughout the year at all. No. They had... Mahomes had more interceptions than he's ever had. His receivers led the league in dropped balls. This was the year, if there was going to be a year, for people to catch up to Kansas City, and it just didn't happen. So, hey, good luck to the rest of the AFC out there. It's just going to be rough. I think the road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City, certainly for as long. Mahomes is 28, okay? Brady played till he was 45. This is a pretty rough precedent.
Well, it's you can compare the two as quarterbacks and 6 years in, and he's got 3 rings. He's got to double it and then win 2 more. Like he said in his own words, he has to win 8 to be the greatest of all time. He can't win 7 and be the greatest of all time in his own words. But I'm just saying he's got a long way to go. But there's nothing that suggests that he's going to go till he's 45 years of age just based on his talent, But, so that's the thing you've got with Brady. He was so good for so long. He played at such a high level and kept a team around him and kept taking a team back to the Super Bowl for so long. But, yeah, you're right. This is the team that they were so beatable this year. And who knows, maybe they'll be even more beatable next year. It's hard to say, trying to keep that talent together. And clearly they weren't thinking about, there was all this talk about super focused and emotional rah-rah team speeches the night before, and I really thought they would come out a bit more laser focused instead of, a great job by the 49ers defense, really, that came and jumped right down their throats and got on top of them right there in the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. But it kind of seemed like, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes didn't even seem like he was really into the game until sometime in the second half. But, you don't bet against a team that's won the back-to-back Super Bowls. We'll see. Someone's got to beat them. Someone's got to be good enough to be not to just put the season together, but actually beat the team. You can't be the Baltimore Ravens, have your MVP, league MVP, have the season you have, and then have them come in and beat you. That's your own.
I hear you. To your point about Brady, could Mahomes ever pass Brady? Brady does have the ultimate trump card because they played each other in a Super Bowl, and Brady's Tampa Bay Bucks killed them. It wasn't even a close game, so that's kind of brutal. And Mahomes, to his credit, is like, no, can't do it. Got to win 8. But even if he does, that's going to be the thing. I mean, for knuckleheads like us who will go, well, who really is the greatest of all time?
Right,
no, you guys went head-to-head once, and the other guy won. So
didn't Tom Brady cheat though?
No.
How so?
Deflategate, was that not a real thing?
That's
the
for
most
people that don't know much about football.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Really?
It is. First of all, so the footballs were slightly underinflated. He had asked that some air be taken out of them. It was a wet, cold game, and he wanted them. He didn't say, hey, listen, man, I know that the line is right here. But whatever. Let's use the words of Jackson, their all-pro linebacker. For the Colts they beat that day, they rushed for over 400 yards.
After
didn't even have a particularly good game.
They switched the balls at halftime, and then the Patriots blew them out in the second half. The other thing, too, and this is the craziest thing about that story, is that, and a lot of people are still seemingly unaware of this, in the NFL, the teams play with different balls.
Yeah.
Like last night, the Niners had their balls and the Chiefs had their own ball. Like the Niners have Niners balls, the Chiefs have Chiefs balls. Now it's the same brand. It's the same, there's 100, whatever it is. Each team gets 48 balls or 72 balls, but they keep them separate. So if one, I've always said, if one guy likes his balls overinflated or underinflated and the other quarterback doesn't, who cares? You're playing with your own ball.
Yeah,
it's like it's a silly thing. It was all a bunch of hoo-ha at the time. But, and now, all these years later, Candace and many people say, didn't Tom Brady cheat? And the answer is sadly, no, he didn't.
I'm just sorry I asked.
No, don't be sorry. See, no, if you're not learning, you're not living. Now you know.
We really shouldn't be talking about football concerning the Super Bowl. It's not, I think most people that watch the Super Bowl don't even know that there is a football game. Hey, look, and then I'm not accusing you of that, Candace, but that's because you've heard the narrative. I've got buddies that know quite a bit about football, that played college football with me, that were coaches even. They go, hey, he's a cheater. It's because they hate Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. And they hate Tom Brady because he won 7 Super Bowls, and their team, Minnesota Vikings, not as many.
Not as many.
Yeah, they hate him.
Not quite as many.
And Mahomes is approaching that now, too, right? People are going to want to hate Mahomes.
Oh, heck yeah.
He's won 3 Super Bowls. They've got a dynasty on a roll here. He makes it look easy. Yeah.
I mean, this is like, this is something Viking fans can relate to when you have Favre and Aaron Rodgers back-to-back in division. If you are a Chargers, Raiders, or Broncos fan, I mean, your misery is just over the top with, you got to be kidding me. I mean, we got to play this guy twice a year forever. It's a pretty brutal thing. A lot of people, not just our good friend Tony Lee, are calling in sick today all around the country. We mentioned this earlier in the show. There's one town in Kentucky known as Paris, Kentucky, and they have the day off. The school superintendent said, you know what, guys, screw it. Everybody's just have fun with the Super Bowl. We're taking Monday off, because he just didn't want to feel like, you're gonna have a lot of absences, and let's have our kids enjoy. The quote he said was great. I love this. At Paris City Schools, we understand school should adjust to fit real life. That is spectacular, and he's exactly right. There's a teacher up in Montreal, however, who took that a little too far. Yes, school should prepare you, and it should evolve and adapt to fit real life. and it should prepare you for real life. But one of those lessons shouldn't be watch your back because the last person you'd expect might screw you over and exploit your talents. That's a little rough for sixth graders, I think. Yeah. But check this out. This is happening in Montreal. A 12-year-old student and friends Googled their art teacher's name because they were just like, I wonder what we can find out about our teacher, which is what every student has done for every teacher since the internet was first in our homes. Like, you Google your teacher's name hoping to find something out. What a bunch of 12-year-olds found out was that their art teacher was selling their artwork.
Oh, my gosh.
Without giving them credit.
Wow.
Selling students' artwork. It's unbelievable. Drawings of a 12-year-old girl and her classmates. It's not just like the drawing. They're appearing on T-shirts and coffee mugs and even iPhone cases. Can you imagine you're 12 and you do a painting or a drawing or a charcoal whatever, and you turn it in, and then the teacher decides that would look amazing on a coffee mug?
I mean, I'm the kid that when you draw the outline of your hand and made it into a turkey, mine didn't even get hung up on the wall.
Sure.
Just gave it back to me. So I personally would have been flattered. But I see the issue here. It's some of these coffee mugs are going for like $180. Here is a couple of concerned parents.
I'm extremely disgusted with this person. Unbelievable. Is this the teacher asking for certain type of projects to be done to be able to, sell them?
This is something that they did, that they put their heart and their soul in the artwork. They get an A, a B, a C, or a D on it, but he's getting $118 in his pocket.
That's not right. It reminds me of like the old folks home where they have them make quilts. What movie was that? It was like now I'm forgetting, Happy Gilmore or something like that. And it was Ben Stiller's character, I believe, was in there, and he was having them kind of a sweatshop routine where he's having to make quilts and was selling the quilts on the side at the old folks home. But yeah, I'm looking at these coffee mugs. Okay, these are going for $41, I guess. I had something on here. One of them listed for $151. It's good looking art, I think. It's the kind of coffee mug that a teacher here in Minnesota would spend their own money to have made so they could give to the parents of the child's artwork when they came in for Parent-Teacher Day. But not this one. This teacher belongs in the corporate structure, I think. Just maybe perhaps a life of education, not for this teacher. I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
It's pretty incredible to think that he specifically gave them assignments knowing what he wanted to do with them. I mean, it's one thing to be like, this looks pretty cool. This would look good on a shirt. And then, and again, I can see the line of thinking after the fact, but it's the plan. And there would be no justification for it, even in that case. But the planning ahead and thinking about it, that is extraordinary to me. I mean, that's like, I had a teacher in high school and who was great. My English teacher was wonderful, but it turned out her husband was a con artist. He was an insurance salesman who hadn't been paying into premiums. Everybody that was writing him checks for insurance, he was just pocketing the money.
Oh my God.
And true story. And he eventually left and moved down to Brazil where there's no extradition. I mean, he literally fled the country and just gone off the map with everyone's cash. And so all these folks that had thought they had insurance policies actually didn't. He was doctoring all the paperwork. And it's funny because I was house sitting for a family that used him as an insurance salesman, and I crashed their car. They left me a car for a 2-week house sitting gig, and the only time I've ever had an accident that I was at fault was that summer, and it was the Petersons' car that I smashed up, and I. After they got back, I went to talk to him because I had to go in there and say, well, if it's going to raise their premium, I'll have to pay the difference. Like, I'll have to cover the difference. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be on the hook for life. Yeah. And he literally goes, nah, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And I was like, really? And he goes like, it's not a problem at all. And I remember thinking like, that's the coolest thing in the world. But really? I mean, I just thought that's a little weird, but okay, cool. And I told them, I said, yeah, man, he said it was all good. And they were like, oh, that's great. And then like 2 years later, I'm in college and my mom's like, hey, he's gone. Apparently he never paid in and he took everyone's money and he went down to South America. I'm like, what in the world? It's like a soap opera character would do that, not a real guy.
Yeah, no kidding. No wonder he let you off the hook.
Yeah, he's just like he might as well have said, no, literally, I couldn't care less.
Thanks for your contribution. By the way, this teacher that's selling the artwork of the students, he's got a whole series of creepy portraits here. You know how those kids, they can do the weird things. Like here's a girl, she's got a goat for an eye.
Nice.
Yeah, right. And one goat horn. God, this could be, it's called Olivia's Creepy Portrait #2. It could be Candace's creepy portrait. But those are the high dollar ones, $151. So I suppose he was coaching him on, make it weird. Let your imagination really go. Probably thought it was just a cool teaching technique. But yeah, he was cashing. He must have been making some money off this stuff. There's a heck of a lot of these paintings on here. Crying out loud. It's a side hustle. Teachers, what do they pay him up there in Canada?
Apparently, they just give him a lot of poutine. They just give him those smothered French fries and call it a day.
He had iPhone cases, coffee mugs, T-shirts. Wow!
I would love to have. If you could be a fly on the wall, just imagine a bunch of 12-year-old kids and then the one person finds it. But, I want to see every kid's reaction to going to that website. Just the face. It'd just be so confusing and wait, what the? I mean, like you said, Zeb, any artwork I did, I would actually have been flattered because, trust me, I was not getting A's and B's in art class myself. But that is so completely insane. And I just, the audacity. Oh, I'll never get caught. Who's going to find this? It's the internet.
There's a heck of a lot of parents this morning dropping their kids off at school going, maybe I ought to take all that crappy artwork that's been hanging on the fridge and get that put on some T-shirts and hang it up. People are buying this stuff and they're paying good money.
It just occurred to me.
What?
They Googled their teacher's name and found it. What the hell's he putting his real name on this for?
This Nimrod probably didn't even think it was a bad thing. What? I mean,
what in the world?
What are you going to do with their art? It was just sitting around. We just hang it on the wall and then we throw it away.
That's
probably
why
thought he had a little side.
That's why we all need aliases. I mean, as I said, I'm Stevie Freshwater. If you see that, online somewhere, you know who's behind whatever the caper at fault is. Speaking of capers, how about this? A man in Florida. He's a truck driver for a paving company. He was one of 3 people who was able to use company credit cards. This is a 47-year-old man in Clearwater driving a truck for a paving company. They have 3 company credit cards, and he's one of the 3 people that gets to use them. And since September of 23, over the last few months, the company's owner was finding wait, what's going on? These are some weird charges on this company card. It's supposed to only be work related. Oh, that's right. This guy, Warren Johnson, was using his company's credit card to buy $31,000 of lottery tickets.
Well, see, that's smart, though. He wasn't blowing it on porn and going out cheap vacations and that sort of thing. You put it into the lottery tickets. You win the money back. So you put the money back into the account. You pay off the credit card. And you've got a little left over for yourself, except I'm guessing that's not what happened here.
Didn't happen. And here's the thing. You can only purchase up to $20 on a credit card lottery tickets. If you are buying lottery tickets on a card in Florida, it's capped at $20. So let's just see. 31,000 divided by 20, that's 1,550 separate charges.
Were you getting anything else done at work? 1,500.
That's only since September. That's a few a day, a few times a day. Yeah, give me 20 on those Powerballs. I mean, man.
They probably just thought, I'm nickel and diamond here. They're never going to notice these. Yeah, they are when you do it 1,500 times. If you had done it, say, 4 times over a span of some months or a year or something like that, you might have snuck that one through. but 15, someone's got a gambling addiction. That's all he can go with now. I'm an addict.
If he's buying this is good too, because if he's buying the $2 tickets, that means he had over 15,000 tickets. And in 15,000 tickets, a lot of people think, well, surely one of them's going to win big money. And here's the problem with 1 in 378 million odds. None of us know what that means. But what it means is 15,000 tickets ain't enough. You're still not going to win big money. I buy lottery tickets all the time. Not all the time, but every couple weeks, right. I'm getting gas. I walk in, I say, screw it. Here's $2, and that $2 serves one purpose. It gives me 30 seconds of this would be amazing, and then half the time I forget I have the ticket.
You bought yourself a little daydream there, and I'm the same way. When I buy it, the money is gone. I'm not sitting around waiting for the lotto numbers to drop. I'm not rubbing my lucky beads or anything like that. I'm like, okay, that money's gone, but perhaps I'll be one of those people. What? I won? But you can assume that it's gone because 99.9 and then let the nines go for about a half hour. You're not going to win, but this dumb son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's how that goes. The former bassist of Jane's Addiction is a guy named Chris Chaney. And he played with Alanis Morissette on tour for a while. He's been an LA guy. He gets around, but he started in Jane's Addiction and then has bounced around and was in Taylor Hawkins of the Foo Fighters solo band. And he's just a guy who's been on the scene forever. Chris Chaney. Chris Chaney is now, as of today, officially known as the new bassist of AC/DC. And they have announced a tour for this summer. So Chris Chaney and a drummer named Matt Logg are the rhythm section for AC/DC now moving forward. They have announced a tour, 21 dates. The Power Up Tour kicks off May 17th, and it runs through August 17th. Now, let me see what that is. I believe that's June. That's 3 months. 21 shows in 3 months. Okay, first of all, love the schedule, fellas. My God. 21 shows in 3 months? That's pretty great. Oh, but the only problem is the tour starts in Germany, it concludes in Ireland, and stays in Europe the whole time.
No, well, they'll get around to an American swing here for sure. Too much money here, yeah?
Got to imagine they'll get around to it, but so far not. They played the Power Trip Festival in the fall, of course, and played it was funny, they played their first show in 6 years back in October and played one of the longest sets of their entire career. But now and that was with original bassist Cliff Williams, but he's retired again. He's like, no, I'm done. And by the way, he suffers from vertigo. So, trust me, that's all you got to say. I get it, bud. Go rest up. Have a good time. Drummer Phil Rudd, of course. Well-documented legal troubles over the last decade. He of the let me hire a hitman to kill my contractor variety legal troubles. So those things get in the way of a pending tour.
Let's just go to Europe. We could do a KQ morning show trip. Just hop across the pond. Why not?
Okay. Well, let's see. Gelsenkirchen, Germany, 2 shows. They're in Italy. Reggio Emilia. Do you know where that is in Italy?
Bologna. That's the Bologna area.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, that's a hop and a skip.
Spain, Netherlands, couple in Germany, bunch of Germany and Austria, 2 nights at Wembley Stadium in London. Okay, all right. You know what? Let's get on this. Let's make it happen.
All right, we're going to slap that together during the break. Speaking of Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, they've just announced some new inductees. We'll run down that list a little bit. We have Greg Harris from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at 9 o'clock. Going to get into a deep dive of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. Steve talking earlier, and I agree with him, one classic rocker, big time on the KQ playlist, included this year, long overdue. Will they make it in? We'll get to all that stuff and more here in about 10 minutes. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talkin' text line, 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. AC/DC back in black right there. October 5th, 2024 will mark 50 years since AC/DC's first gig with Bon Scott. They had been playing a few shows earlier that year with a guy named Dave Evans, but really it was when Bon Scott took over that AC/DC became what we think of as AC/DC. So 50 years on, Today they announce a new tour, of, at least so far, of Europe for this summer. No American dates announced yet. AC/DC May through August will be on tour in Europe. A new rhythm section for the tour. What are you going to do? It's AC/DC. As long as Angus Young is up there and Brian Johnson, I'm going to go see them. Very happy to do so. And for the record, I get this all the time, and I'm just going to throw it out there for no particular reason. Because I was in a band for decades, and I'm no longer in that band. And people literally love to go, well, how do you feel about if I still want to go see them? And my answer is, great. Go have fun. I don't care. I'm not there. I don't care who else is there. And so, I love AC/DC. I love their original lineup. I love that band. But like I said, as long as it's Angus and Brian, I almost feel like a salmon to the spawning. I have to go. I've just my DNA compels me to go see AC/DC whenever possible. Despite the fact I would love for Phil Rudd and Cliff Williams to be on stage, they're not going to be. That's okay. It's not about all the things that it's everyone's got their own perspective on these things. Listen. None of us are getting any younger, especially our favorite artists. If they're on tour and you can see them in any form or fashion, go see them. If you go see Foreigner, you know who's not going to be there? Anybody from Foreigner.
Aww.
I popped in and saw them when I was out doing a road trip last year, and I was like, "Oh, Foreigner's playing!" And look at this ticket. This ticket is fairly affordable, and it's at this little roadhouse. I gotta go. Not even Mick Jones with them anymore. I'm like, oh, so it's a completely foreign Foreigner. I see what's going on here. But
it's the kind of thing this is George Washington's axe. The handle's been replaced 3 times and the blade 4. It's kind of okay. But Mick Jones still is involved in Foreigner.
Yes.
He's not able to play live, but he still oversees it, and he did for as long as he could. And there's still an original thread. Leonard Skinner, another band who, if you go see them, none of the original members are in the band. Now, some of the people that are playing in Foreigner now have been with them for decades. They are. But the original band, the band whose first 4 albums took the world by storm, and I mentioned Foreigner because they are now a nominee for the first time for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's absurd that Foreigner is just now nominated for the first time. I mean, if anybody that was alive during from their first 4 albums, what is that, like 78 through 82 or 83?
Yeah.
They were the biggest band in the world, it felt like.
I mean, Head Games came out after Foreigner 4, and these were monumental. These were right up there with the Journeys and the AC/DCs and the REO Speedwagon albums in terms of sales and, just plugged into the pop culture, the woven into the fabric of certainly my childhood, my life, my teen years. So, but it really gets back to not really about their body of work, but that it was a political thing, and that's where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame runs into some problems. I think certainly they've allowed a variety of artists in over the years, and some of the old curmudgeons, and I find myself every once in a while going, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Set that aside, and since the Music Hall of Fame is already being taken, we can see it in a much broader picture, but not with the politics. And there have been a lot of accusations over the years that there's been a lot of politics involved. Maybe they've cleaned that up. Something to talk to Greg Harris about. Certainly at 9 o'clock, I think that would make it a bit more legitimate with some of these other artists getting in. If you want to nominate a Mariah Carey, great. But then you can't not honor a Judas Priest or a Foreigner, or at least nominate them, because then it stinks.
Well, the greatest example to me has always been Kiss. They were not. They didn't get in until 2014, and they were eligible in the 90s. And it's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're one of the most iconic. Love them or hate them, that's not the point. There is nothing before or since like them. The artist. So every year they announce a dozen or so nominees, and then every year 6 or 7 get in, or 5 or 6 or 7 get in. So the nominees this year. And we don't have to spend too much time with a lot of these. Mary J. Blige, this is her second nomination. I don't know much at all about Mary J. Blige, other than she's a phenomenal singer. I mean, every time I see her, she Super Bowl halftime shows. She's been a part of several of those. If I see her on an award show, anytime I hear her sing, I think, holy smokes, that is the real deal. But I don't own any of her records. I've never pursued it. But Candace, you just responded. She's obviously somebody you're well aware of.
My mom had her on in the car all the time, and I really got to know her that way. But but she like is very raw. Like I would say that she is a rock star in a way because she talks about things that are so deep inside of her soul. Like her music is just very like intense.
Well, the number of people that other artists who give her ultimate tribute. Like I've read what other artists that I respect say about her, and they look at her like, oh, she's one of us. I haven't paid attention to her music, but she's held in very high regard by people I hold in high regard. So cool. Mariah Carey, can't say the same thing for her. Talented, of course. She's a tremendous singer, but I don't care for any of her music, and the Christmas song alone should have her living on an island somewhere where nobody can get access.
And I think another component with Mariah Carey for me, it's not just about selling a crap load of albums and songs, which she's done. Yeah. I think you have to be a bit more artistically involved. Yeah, that just came out of Brian Zepp's mouth. But I think, she seems like sort of a product of the music industry rather than an innovator. And that sort of thing. Well,
when you're 21 and you marry the 50-year-old president of Sony Music, people are going to look a little like, oh, okay. How about this? Cher has been nominated.
When I think of Cher, I think about so much more than music. I think about one of America's big-time entertainers, right? She's won the Oscars, and she had the variety shows, and she's done it all. Her body of music work, I mean, I'm going to have to... Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. I got you, babe.
Yeah, you're going back 50, 60 years with the first thought. Then I think, no, she had that one song, If I Could Turn Back Time, and that was 35 years ago. And I'm like, oh, wait.
So much fun live. I saw her in Vegas a few years ago.
Sure. Entertainer. Great.
And she comes out in like this thong, sparkly thong, and she's like, what are your grannies doing tonight?
not wearing a thong on stage with a billion sequins and making it look good, but therein lies the debate. And she hasn't been inducted; she's been nominated, but she? She got the artistic chops.
For the first time nominated. For the second time, Dave Matthews Band is up for vote this year. That checks out. I mean, it's not even about personal taste. It's just, for 30 years, they've been one of the top touring bands on the planet. Yeah. And, they are top to bottom, just such a, was what every musician would want. Like, you have your own universe they've created, like a Grateful Dead. You've got your own world, your own fan base, your own set of rules, and they just have a great principled approach to everything they do. I would be perfectly... I don't care either way, but if they get in, I'd be like, you know what? That could certainly happen to a worse group of guys. Good folks all around. Eric B. and Rakim, I have nothing to say to this. I don't know anything about them.
No.
Foreigner, we already talked about. Peter Frampton. For the first time, Peter Frampton is on the nomination list. And Frampton's quote is great. He's very excited about it, very appreciative. He tweeted, wait, you mean I'm not already in the Rock Hall? Which is really funny. But I saw a further quote where he said he's actually had conversations with people. And by the way, if you remember, Sheryl Crow went in this past year, and Frampton was a part of her. He performed with her. And he said at that event, several people came up and talked to him as if he were already a member. They're like, it must be great to always come back. He's like, I'm not a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These are staffers, people at the Hall of Fame who were then surprised to hear he wasn't already in, which just cracks me up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that one fell into one of those political things, but especially when you lump in, he goes back to, Woodstock, Humble Pie, he's got the chops. He's been there, and of course, as a solo artist, stood alone there for a while in the 70s with Frampton Comes Alive. So no problems there, but kind of a head scratcher.
Ozzy Osbourne on the list. Candace is, that you can put the candle out. You've had it lit for years.
I'm going to have to go to this ceremony.
If he gets in, you should. That'd be great.
Were you all about Ozzy not wanting to have anything to do with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when he came out with that stance?
He's right. Yeah. I just, I'm just happy that he's getting recognized at this point because he's going through a lot, and I think that his solo career is very important to him and kind of saved him in a way. So I feel like it's a different deal.
Yeah. For the first time, Oasis is nominated. Whatever you think about Oasis, in the rest of the world, I don't think it's kind of hard to get your arms around how big they were and how big they would be should they ever choose to reunite. Big in the States, sure, for a hot minute. Their second album into their third album, they had a bit of a buzz, but then they kept having they had that bad habit of canceling American tours in the middle of them, and that doesn't really help build your fan base. But around the rest of the globe, I mean, this was a stadium band literally everywhere but America by the late 90s. So I'm surprised they haven't already been nominated. I would be very surprised if they didn't get in.
Rock radio in the 90s, especially what we called or deemed alternative radio in the 1990s, Oasis had a very large footprint. But you're right, they didn't expand that in the United States and probably superstar it because of the aforementioned reasons that you just talked about. But when I think of 1990s radio, I think I might put them in the top 10 bands that you just heard over and over with the Pearl Jams and the Nirvanas and the Soundgarden, the Seattle scene, and Oasis was very much a part of that.
Well, they've just got there's a handful of artists that have a song that just, I know this, there was a time in life, and I was touring in the 90s and traveling constantly, and it seemed like overnight, every busker on every street corner or in every subway station on the planet was singing Wonderwall. That song,
right.
There's big hit songs, but then there's those ones that just get into the zeitgeist of somehow. They get into a DNA. Like if you go to Dublin tomorrow, someone's playing Wonderwall in a pub still.
I was in Costco last week, and they were playing Wonderwall. I mean, it's made the leap into the into the speaker system for music almost because it's universally known and I mean, if you've got a Dave Matthews in there and you have in the classic rock genre, some of us are starting to talk about, I mean, how do you not get a Pearl Jam and a Foo Fighters and a Nirvana? How are they not in the classic rock genre? And a lot of people, the debate within classic rock is, classic rock ended right here. Well, classic rock started in 1982 as a radio format. It was playing Led Zeppelin, who'd only been broken up for a couple of years. I mean, they were not a 20, 30 year removed band. And then you think of bands in the 1990s like we're talking about, the Biggies, they're part of the conversation. And I know I was listening to Classic Rock Station traveling last year, playing both Oasis and Dave Matthews. In a large market. So they're part of the fabric. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame talk for sure.
In about a half hour, we're going to speak with Greg Harris, the president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's always a good guy to talk to about these very things. And, of course, I thought it was weird they're announcing their nominees over Super Bowl weekend. But then I recognized, no, actually, it's almost one of those it's the company you keep arguments, which is, of course we're going to announce it alongside the Super Bowl because these are both, these are huge. The scale is appropriate, and I think a lot of this probably did get lost, but I see them working. I like them thinking big that way. Speaking of thinking big, I would be remiss. We almost forgot to mention that today is a lot of things. It's Super Bowl Monday. It's Darwin Day.
Yeah,
we're almost to Valentine's Day, but today is in fact National Poop Day.
What?
I've already celebrated.
I'm not making this up. National Poop Day. National Poop Day was created in 2016 at the Madison Children's Museum. Children passed a referendum to allow for the celebration. It's meant to celebrate and explore one of the most vital functions of the human body, which, I get that. Okay, kids museum. I don't know if it's because I was in a house with 10 people, 6 of whom were boys like me, 6 boys, 2 girls, and a couple of parents. That was the Gorman household. But no one had time to have any hang-ups. You know what I mean? Like, neuroses, not welcome. Like, just get in line and do your job and shut up. And the having an issue with bodily functions, that wasn't a part of it. You know what I mean? No. It was just like, just wipe the seat. But that's it. But I've had friends. I've known people my whole life who are kind of wound up about poop. They have a real issue with this. And in fact, so of course people go right to polling. 46% of Americans will only poop if other people are around in case of emergency.
Wait, what?
They will hold it just until they're alone.
I know people like this.
That's not how it's supposed to be.
No, I know guys. I mean, blue-collar guys that, I don't poop in public. I got to drive home. You're what? Or we'd be out hunting. I'm not going to, well, you just crap in the woods. No, I got to head back to the outhouse. You got to head back. You're going to crap in a house outside next to our cabin, but you're not going to poop out here in the woods. They get some weird hang up. I remember I grew up in a smaller family, just 3 of us, and one bathroom there in the old farmhouse. But I remember going over and doing a sleepover with a friend in elementary school who had something like the Gorman house. I don't know how many. I never even counted, but it was, right around a half dozen kids. And I go in and I'm taking a bath. And, which is a very private thing in our family. You go in, you go to bath, no one comes in. Maybe mom has to come in occasionally or something. But one of the brothers just comes storming in, boom, plops down on the toilet, and just starts pooping. And he goes, and I'm looking at him with this look of shock on my face. He's like, what? I'm not pooping in the tub, dude. I was like, okay, sounds good. You're right. I mean, I don't know, understand the hang-ups, but Candace, aren't you're weird about pooping in public?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, for me, it's not like I can hold it in either. If I gotta go, I gotta go.
You gotta go.
It's always an emergency situation.
Have you ever had to go anywhere in an emergency situation that wasn't a bathroom, like out by the dumpster or, in one of the garbage cans back by the other radio station in the building?
I don't want to get into that.
I just heard the most ennui-filled, yeah. Oh.
No. Yeah. There was one time in Italy I had to go and I couldn't get in the bathroom. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm too embarrassed.
No, it's fine. Let it go.
But this is funny. So, I was with a boy and we went and got breakfast. And then we were going to go back to my house after and watch a movie. And we both had to go. For some reason, the pancakes and eggs, those always.
That Italian dairy, pretty rich.
So he's like, I gotta go to Target really quick. He was trying to go stop somewhere before we went to my house. And I was like, no, if we're going to be together, we're going to have to do this together.
What? Not together, together.
So I did it first, and then he went in after. He's like, well, fine, but you have to go first. I'm not letting you come in there after I do it.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago online there was a listing. It made the rounds. It kind of went viral because it was a legitimate home listing, and it was out on Long Island, and the master bathroom had 2 toilets facing each other. And I just remember
not eye contact. That's where I draw the line. Maybe not. No knees touching. No eye contact. No. Yeah, I don't know if then you're syncing up your bowel movements. Now it's getting a little weird.
That was akin to when I was a kid. One day, the Catholic Church announced face-to-face confession. Like one day, you go to confession and you're in the booth and it's a screen and you can't see the priest's face. You just see the silhouette, and then you hope he doesn't know who you are, but of course he does because that's how they operate. They know voices and they're clear thing,
Yeah.
But then they had this whole thing. It was like the Vatican II or whoever. I was in 6th or 7th grade, and suddenly I'm sitting in a brightly lit room in a folding chair, directly just me and a priest are staring at each other, and he's like, and I have to confess to a guy, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. No. And that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw the 2 toilets facing each other. That's just that's a confessional of sorts. You know what I mean? You're going to walk in there, and no matter what words you say, you're also confessing something else. Your body, your central nervous system, it's all horribly aligned if it makes sense for you to poo with your partner.
There's an honesty there that you can't escape. There's a line you've crossed that you'll never get back. Yeah, on the other side of.
They say, the most honest form of art is writing, because even in the subtext and what isn't written oftentimes is just as important as what is, and the true intent comes out in the writing, whether the author means to or not. There's all these things. There's a million anecdotal quotes from people who study art, and they say, generally speaking, like this, what is said and what isn't said are equally important. And something about what you just said, Zepp, reminded me of that. Like, yeah, you and your partner look at each other in the eye while you're both releasing. That's crossing a Rubicon that I dare not. I don't even want to know about, much less consider involving my life with.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zepp, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Monday, February the 12th. In a few minutes, we're going to be speaking with Greg Harris, the president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They just announced their nominee list for this year. We just heard Paul McCartney, who was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, both as a Beatle and, of course, as a solo artist. And Ozzy Osbourne is now a nominee as a solo artist. If he goes in, he will also be in twice. First for as a member of Black Sabbath, of course, and then now as a solo star. I think Ozzy will get in. But, boy, there's only a handful of people who are in there twice. I believe Eric Clapton is in there 3 times.
Yes.
Which is kind of a neat trick if you think about it.
Right.
Oh, man.
I mean, if they ever get around to, like, Derek and the Dominoes,
Yeah,
because he's
no
obviously
kidding.
in there for Cream and
Yardbirds.
Thank you, and his solo career.
Yep. Not bad. Yeah, and by the way, as I'm on the record many times saying my favorite Clapton is Derek and the Dominoes. So, it's like, yeah, why not? Give it a run. See if we can run it up the flagpole, see what happens. The Pro Football Hall of Fame announced their class this year over the weekend as well, as they always do. I don't know if you saw if you saw any of the spots. They always do that thing where they show people who are as they are told you've been welcomed into the Hall of Fame. They have the video there, and a lot of times they'll send a current Hall of Famer with the gold jacket. They'll knock on the person's front door, and they open the door and there's a guy with a gold jacket, and it's every time you see it, these people are so emotional. It's just such an intense thing. And so I went down the rabbit hole. On Twitter the other day, I'm watching every single one going, this is really incredible. Let's see. Steve McMichael, Devin Hester, and Julius Peppers, all members of the Chicago Bears, are in the class of 2024. It's not going to be held until August, but they announce it over the Super Bowl while everybody's paying close attention. Yeah. It's just always a pretty cool thing. I just had the list in front of me. Everybody else who is nominated, who's inducted, but I seem to have lost it. But anyway, hey, good for everybody.
Lenny Kravitz, Cher.
Here we go. No, pro football.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well,
here it is. Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson. Wow. Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis, and then a couple of senior players. That's Randy Gradishar and Steve McMichael. So that's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Old Gradishar. Middle linebacker for the Broncos.
Yep.
But, yeah, I think a lot of Minnesota fans are, there was some story and I guess some conjecture about Jared Allen not getting nominated again this year. And so I typed in his stats. He played for 4 teams, and maybe that gets lost across those 4 teams. But this guy's in top 20 of all-time defensive ends, all-time, as far as the stats coming in with the number of sacks, solo tackles, tackles for losses, fumble recoveries, these types of things. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll get in on the next nomination. But when I think of Devin Hester, I think, Jared Allen and Devin Hester. I mean, I don't think that you can say that Devin Hester he stood alone there as a kick return specialist.
Right.
Far superior to anybody else, and changed the kick return game as we know it. I guess maybe that's why he gets a little more importance. But I don't know why Jared Allen got overlooked again this year.
I don't know about that either. And speaking of Devin Hester as a kick return specialist, probably the last one you'll see because, there's no such thing as a kick return specialist anymore. The way they changed the rules, it's just a touchback, 99% of the time now. Yeah. We're just not going to see a guy play the game the way he played it. I don't think ever again. The good thing about sports, as opposed to, like, say, music, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, endless debates over who deserves it, who's better. There's not better. It's purely subjective. At least with sports, there's a scoreboard. You know what I mean? You can always go, well, who won the damn game? And you could say yesterday the San Francisco 49ers beat the Chiefs on the field. You could say they outplayed them. Everything went their way. But at the end, the scoreboard said Kansas City 25, San Francisco 22, because, well, you got Patrick Mahomes in there, and those are the kind of things that happen. If you want to beat the Chiefs, you need more than a 10-point lead, clearly. Patrick Mahomes has now won 3 Super Bowls, and he has trailed by double digits in all 3 of them.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to dominate the Chiefs in the first half, and beat a Patrick Mahomes team? Because, we were all waiting for it. Tony Romo was talking about it. You only get so many possessions before here he comes. He's going to solve it. He's got Andy Reid over there. They've got Spagnuolo on the defensive side. They've got some great coaching minds with this, phenomenal quarterback of his generation. They're going to figure it out sooner or later. And not only did you not pile up a lead and get your boot right on their throat, you ended up with some field goals when you should have had some touchdowns and gave the ball back with 2 minutes. I thought it was over then. When there was 2 minutes left in the game and they had to settle for a field goal after having the Chiefs on their heels defensively and running the ball down their throat, and then had a dumb penalty down there in the red zone again and didn't get in and kicked a field goal. There's 1:58 left on the clock. Patrick Mahomes needs to score to win. I'm like, what? This game's over.
Yeah.
He's got it right there. And then he gave you another chance. And then you had another chance in overtime winning the coin toss, and you still didn't get it done. So that's really got to hurt. I would think that kind of loss for a 49ers team is almost worse than getting blown out.
I would agree. And that's another point I'm glad you made. So the Niners won the overtime toss and chose to take the ball first.
Yeah.
That is insanity to me. Conventional wisdom and Steve wisdom, for whatever it's worth, is give the other team the ball first. And then what you have to do. I don't know. It's just one of those confounding things. But right now, as we mentioned, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced their nominees for the class of 2024. And Greg Harris joins us, president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Greg, it's always a pleasure, sir. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. It's my pleasure to be speaking with you in Miami. I hope things are great. I'm up here in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's been a couple of fun days. We announced the nominees for our 2024 induction class, and it's an incredible group of artists.
Greg, I got to correct you. We're in Minneapolis. I know you're doing a lot of talking today, but,
You're in Minneapolis.
We wish we were in Miami.
All right, you know what, Ben? I love all DJs everywhere, but I like you guys even better because you know how to scrape windshields just like we do in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
We do.
Hey, Greg, let's talk about some of the nominees. A couple jumped right off the page to me. And the first one was Peter Frampton, who apparently, like Peter Frampton himself, thought, wait, I'm not already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? He's not already in? It's a guy who's been, obviously, for people that go all the way back to Humble Pie with him, it's a really nice thing to see him get that nod.
Oh, it's terrific that he's getting the nod. And you're right. He's one of those artists that if you asked, 20 rock fans, they would think he's already been inducted. But this is his very first time ever on the ballot. And it's exciting to see, and love that he saw some humor in it. And I think that it's going to be fun to see how the voters respond to Peter Frampton being there. I think a lot of them will open the ballot and say the same thing. Wait a minute, I thought he's already in. So there's a few artists like that in this nominating class, but he's terrific, and we're so thrilled that he's been nominated finally.
Greg, you mentioned the voters. So from this point on, does the fan vote play a part in who gets nominated, or does it now play a part in who gets inducted?
Yeah.
Or is it both?
The primary voting body that receives the ballots for these, it's all the other living inductees. So, thinking about, the members of U2 votes, Smokey Robinson votes, the members of Metallica vote. They all get the ballots, as well as a chunk of industry experts that have had their careers in music. In fact, Steve, like you, you could probably be a voter with that body. By the way, there's it's not a huge group, but it's a little over 1,000 voters, and they vote, and those ballots come back. And then the fan vote itself, it's more of a chance for fans to voice their sentiments and to be connected to this. We've modeled it after the Heisman Trophy voting, where the fan vote gets aggregated and it equates to two ballots that get tallied. So, but really, that broader, bigger vote. It's one of the reasons why a couple years ago the Dave Matthews Band was on. And they ran the table on the fan vote. They just won it by a couple million votes, if I remember right.
Wow.
But in the end, the issue there is this: if you think about it shouldn't be a popularity contest. It really has to be impact and influence. And just because an artist has a lot of followers and can mobilize voters, shouldn't go against. A couple years ago, we inducted T-Rex. And T-Rex hasn't existed as a band. I'm not sure they even have a social media presence at all, with Mark Bolan gone and the other members not active. And so, it just wouldn't be a level playing field if it only relied on those type of being able to mobilize fans.
Of course. Greg Harris is with us, president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The other artist, Greg, that jumped off, and I was happy to see, is Foreigner. For anybody that wasn't around, the first 5 Foreigner albums, they were as big, as dominant, as impactful at that time, late 70s through mid 80s, as anybody. And they're one of those bands that people have mentioned over the years of how come Foreigner's not even a part of this. So I was very happy to see finally their name come up on the nomination list.
Oh, yeah. Those hits, Cold as Ice, Feels Like the First Time, Hot Blood, and Jukebox Hero, on and on and on. They were blasting through radios through that era, and it wasn't just one album full of hits. It was a succession of records and massive. So great to see them on the ballot for the first time, too.
Ozzy Osbourne, a man who is probably has been trying to distance himself from something he said 30 years ago about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Happy to be in as a member of Black Sabbath, and now very, according to his social media posts, thrilled to be up as a solo artist. Also, I would say long overdue.
Well, the Prince of Darkness, right?
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting when somebody's been inducted with a group. And Black Sabbath was, as we all know, terrific, but that was 15 years, maybe a little bit more. But he's been Ozzy Osbourne and putting out records since 1980.
Yeah.
44 years of putting out solo records. And, those early solo records, The Blizzard of Oz with Crazy Train, and then Bark at the Moon, and on and on and on. They're so powerful and so impactful that he's being nominated as a solo artist, and we're thrilled for it.
Greg, a lot of times, I heard myself say it a minute ago, long overdue. I don't say that as a judgment call. There's so many great artists. Anytime somebody comes in, if they're not right, if it's not 25 years after their first release, if it's any longer, you always think long overdue. But that's not a judgment call. I'm not throwing darts. Of course it's overdue because there's so many great artists here. And when people say the same thing again about, well, they wouldn't be nominated except for, I say, yeah, but so what? It doesn't really matter. The point is everybody has their time. And what I'm getting to is Sinead O'Connor, who died last year, and then her several documentaries. She was back in the public consciousness, and I see she's nominated. And I, for one, think it's great. I think, again, when you talk about impact and somebody just coming out of left field and shaking the world the way she did, I think that's completely just. And it doesn't bother me in the least, the timing, because eventually all the greats do get noticed.
I think it was very well said. And Sinead has this unbelievable voice, this vocal range, this vision. When you're good enough, you're out there in Minneapolis. When you are good enough to be working with Prince, you are pretty special. And Sinead was all of that and more. And then, great artists are disruptive. And for her to take a stand and be disruptive at the height of her career, calling out the church for decades or centuries of abuse, and everything she did was just powerful. Now, to your point, there is a thing where you're still a terrific artist, but this newfound bump because a documentary film comes out. That's how NWA sort of got rediscovered in a way. The Go-Go's during their nomination cycle, and with Sinead, sadly, her death really reminded a lot of people just what an incredible artist she was. And it's a shame that this nomination wasn't happening. Well, she could be part of it, but at least she's being nominated and can be celebrated by her fans.
Greg Harris is with us, president of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've talked a little bit about this list already on the show, and I mentioned I think a lot of people in the States certainly understand the impact of Oasis here, but maybe are unaware of just how big they've been in the rest of the world and continue to be. If the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the thing that gets those two guys back on stage together, that alone is going to be worth a blue ribbon to you, sir.
Well, it is staggering, and I'm glad you framed it that way. They've sold over 100 million records, massive globally.
Yeah.
And friends in the UK share that it's Oasis songs that people are getting married to.
Yep.
And when they play them as their wedding dances, the entire room sings along. It really is. It's just so ingrained in the culture and just such a part of it that people are playing Oasis songs in stadiums, and they're also playing them on acoustic guitars in pubs all over.
Yeah, I've seen Oasis in the UK twice, and I can say sincerely, there's no two. I've seen that, and then everything else is different. There's such a connection to that band, and if they did decide to ever reunite, they would just. It's like how many Wembley Stadium shows do you want? Just take them; they're all yours. So I'm happy to see them up there. And then of course you've got some people that the rockers will be like saying, for instance, why is Cher on this list? And we were talking about Cher earlier. And Zepp made the point. I mean, the woman has won Oscars. She's done variety TV shows. She had pop hits with Sonny and then plenty after. I mean, everything Cher's ever done has always been a bit extraordinary. And I was kind of surprised to see that this was her first nomination.
Yeah, it's great to see her on. I think that we're really in tune to these very strong, influential female artists in a big way. And Cher, Sonny and Cher started about 1965, and in the early 70s, Cher stepped out as a solo performer, and she's been that way for 5 decades. It's incredible. Cher is. You're talking about all the other things that she does, absolutely. But as a just in her musical output alone, she's had hits. I believe she may have had top hits in every single decade from the 70s to today.
It's pretty incredible. And as you mentioned, of course, her impact, the influence on subsequent generations is unquantifiable. So what is it? It's February 12th. When will the actual inductees be announced?
We're going to announce them at the end of April.
Okay.
So all the ballots are out to the voting body now. We'll bring them back, and in April we'll announce who the new class is, who's been inducted, as well as the specific date and location of the induction ceremony and ticket details. I can say that the ceremony will be this fall in Cleveland, Ohio, but we'll announce those other details later.
Oh, in Cleveland. Okay, very great. I'm happy to see that. And so between now and the end of April, you're basically the guy reminding people, get your ballot in, let's go.
Yeah, it's a chance for all those artists to weigh in on their peers, and then it's a chance for fans to go to rockhall.com and cast their votes too. People take this really seriously, and the return rate on the ballots is massive. So they're out now. Any 5 or 6 out of this class will be incredible. It's a great group of 15.
Sounds great. Greg Harris, it's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you after the actual inductees are announced, I'm sure. Take care, brother.
Okay, Steve. Likewise. Have a great day, and thanks for sharing this with your listeners. Cheers.
You got it. Thank you. Brian Zepp has just shared. It's funny because this list went out over. It was like Friday or Saturday morning. They announced the inductees or the nominees. And yesterday, I looked at all of the social media accounts for Oasis official, and then both Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher, and there was nothing. Not a single acknowledgement. And now Liam Gallagher has come out on Twitter and said that the Rock Hall of Fame is full of bumbaclarts, which is a derogatory Jamaican term that basically means toilet issue or what you might find in a toilet. And so,
Candace, can we get Greg back on the line?
in response to fan tweets, so apparently Liam Gallagher is the singer of Oasis. He had a back and forth with a bunch of fans. Someone said, "Yeah, but you're still deserving of it, though." And of Gallagher's response, "Of course." Another fan wrote, "You need a Hall of Fame where it's just you and nobody else ever is allowed in." And Gallagher responded, "You said it."
I love this guy.
Someone said Shania Twain needs to be in there way before you, to which she said, "I agree." It's just talk about just on brand, just on point forever. Liam is he's a special guy, and I knew if he was going to say anything about it, it would just be whatever.
All right, that's the reaction I was waiting for. That's we'll see now if they get inducted. Because they're not going to change their tune. I want to see them get inducted just for that reason. Can you get those two brothers on stage? Is there a performance left in them? Can that possibly happen? Or maybe just this type of stuff, the social media from these Gallagher brothers leading up to it would make it pretty interesting.
The performance is the least of my concerns. I just want to see them go back-to-back speeches. I just want them to get up there and say what's on their mind one after the other. That would be worth the price of admission for sure.
Keep the rebellion alive. All right, we got to get along here. We're going to be speaking with Chris Hardwick, comedian, actor, avid collector, it turns out. And he's got a high-stakes auction show coming up. New series called Up for Auction. Chris Hardwick will join us here before the bottom of the hour. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Monday, February the 12th. Another day in the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty period. Oh, they won again. That's how that's going to go. And we've probably talked that one out. I'm sick of talking about the Chiefs. I just know that a year from now, I'm going to be talking about the Chiefs. Yeah. I know that for most of the next 5-6 years, we're going to be talking about the Chiefs. So with that in mind, I'm thrilled to say we can change the subject because Chris Hardwick is joining us on the KQ Morning Show. Chris Hardwick, who's done a billion things, and they all are fun and kind of cool. Chris, good morning, sir.
Good morning, and I'm going to make your life even easier because I don't know anything about sports, and I didn't watch the Super Bowl, so you don't have anything to worry about it coming up, except for me telling you that I don't know anything about it.
Well, now hold on a minute. I have a sports-adjacent question for you, and then we can get on to Up for Auction. If you and I go out right now to a bowling alley without warming up, what are you throwing? What are you going to roll? Give me a score.
I'd say I have not bowled in a few years. But I could probably, first game out, 180, 190 is my guess.
Yeah.
Maybe 175. But I need a couple warm-up games.
Sure. What's the high score?
My high score, it's always been the bane of my existence because I quit bowling when I was 13 years old for the most part. And at that point, it was 289. I had 10 strikes in a row, and I think I left a 10-pin. And I never never closed the circle on the perfect game. It is something that should not kind of plague me, but does. And I know that if I started bowling regularly again, I would become obsessed with chasing that perfect game.
Yeah.
But someday I'm going to have to do it.
Well, I had to ask, Chris, forgive me, but I'm sorry to bring up that painful the painful 289.
Painful memory. My father. I'm gonna have to bring a Ouija board. My father's no longer alive, and I just need him to know that if I ever bowl a perfect game, I just need the universe to let him know somehow that I finally completed it.
I not that you would remember this, but years ago I was doing a sports radio show in Nashville, and you and I we were going to talk. I think the point was to talk Talking Dead, and we talked bowling the whole time because my dad worked at Brunswick and Ebonite over the years, and your dad, for anyone listening who's confused, your dad was a professional bowler, so you grew up ball in hand. Anyway, I just as soon as I heard you were coming on, I was like, hey, we had a great talk about bowling a long time ago. And My
Dude,
man had...
honestly, I could spend the next hour talking about bowling with you, and then it might actually, people might be like, break from the Super Bowl. We're actually talking about, bowling, and
Sure.
like that kind of Super Bowl. And so, anytime I'll come back and talk about bowling.
So, Chris, the Up for Auction is the new project that we do want to talk about. You are a guy, it seems like somebody just gave you a note as a kid and said, hey, all the stuff you think is cool, other people do too. So just talk about it, and you'll have a whole career of finding everybody who likes the same stuff you like.
I appreciate that you say that. Like, I feel like I have this really fortunate career where I really am lucky enough that I just get to do things that I'm really, really, really interested in doing. And this goes back like when I used to watch, when I was in college, I watched this show called Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
And to me, that was always a very inspirational show because that show was so specific and so comedy nerdy. And after the show became hugely successful, the creator of the show, Joel Hodgson, would say, we never said who is going to get these things. We just said the right people will get these jokes. Mm-hmm. And that really impacted me because I thought, well, if you like something, there is a number of other people out there who might be interested in that thing too. So don't worry about the quantity of that, but just worry about the quality of the people who will really appreciate that you're speaking to something that they really specifically love because you love it. And if you're speaking from a place of passion and love, like we talk about bowling, then, people know if you're authentically into something or not. So just, if you're lucky enough, just, pursue things that are meaningful to you. So that's what I try to do.
And the new thing, Up for Auction, it's on the CW app as of February 8th. Hit CW February 12th, 8:30 to 10 Central. Chris, this is auctions are one thing that everybody knows what an auction is, but until you've been to one, I think people miss the visceral, emotional component. I assume you spent some time discussing that part of it as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And just to sort of like couch it a little bit in sort of a sports analogy, it's like because I don't watch sports, if I have friends who are fanatical about hockey, I probably wouldn't think to watch a hockey game on TV, but when you go to one live, it's a much different experience.
Right.
Like even I appreciate that. And it's the same thing with auctions. Like you may go, well, why would I care about an auction? Why would I care about people spending money on stuff? But when you see it happen live and you see because it only takes two nerds to want the same thing for all of a sudden an item that you never thought twice about is going for $12,000. You're like, geez, how is this happening? And, and a lot of it just goes back to the fact that, especially with this auction that we'd cover is the single largest Disney collection in the world. It's all just like Disney-themed stuff from all the various Disney parks around the world. Disney Paris, Disneyland, Disney World, all the Disney parks. There's 6 of them. And you're just watching people reclaim what were memories to them that were it's not just the collecting of the things, but there are these really great stories, these personal stories that are kind of in the diaries of people's lives that revolve around these objects. And I think that's part of the reason why my wife and I are collectors of stuff. And it's also to preserve these things, which are part of pop culture history, movie props, TV props, stuff from the Disney parks. It's not like there's museums for these types of things. So, private collectors really kind of take care of them, and we curate and then caretake them and then pass them on to future generations, hopefully.
May I interject, Chris, Zepp here, and while we're talking about this, I'm having a sweaty palms moment because as a child, my mom's into all these collectible things. She loves Christmas ornaments, and when I was a child in the 70s and 80s, my mother would travel to Disney World each year to pick up the little Christmas ornaments each year. They had a commemorative. This was long before online, of course. So she had to make this journey to achieve these things. Sometimes her sister would drive down from the Northeast and pick them up for her. Anyway, they were gifts to us children. Well, guess who never kept his? I don't even know what the hell happened to him, but I had an entire series of Disney characters. How many millions or thousands of dollars do you think I misplaced? Probably gave him to an ex-girlfriend or something, as a sort of, I'm sorry, I'm a asshole, here, take these. And but I feel like they were probably worth a lot of money now.
I mean, they probably were worth a lot of money, but I think it might surprise you at the emotional connection. Like, if you watch an auction, you saw one of those Christmas ornaments from the 70s or 80s come up, you might get teary and emotional because without realizing, like, oh my God, this thing is a physical representation of a moment in time that's tied to my mom, that's tied to this. And I love that you mentioned, like, in the old days, you really had to hunt and gather these things. Like, now, we are such a consumer culture in this digital age where it's like, and I've talked to other collectors about this before. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of joy lost in the fact that it's like, oh, this old concert T-shirt, this old television action figure, I just remembered I liked, and you go on eBay and you get it. Okay, I had it within 5 seconds, But your mom, like, making this journey is a really special story. But with this auction, like, you're seeing someone who did that on a really grand scale, collected all these things, and is now just like filtering them back out into the world. People hopefully will, protect them and those things and care for them, and then, just pass them forward in time.
Chris, I got to say, too, it's, like you said, it makes perfect sense. You see a physical representation of a moment in time, and that's really powerful. Like, if you show me the Hot Wheels split image, it's 1968 Christmas, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I got to get that Hot Wheel. now,
I know. It's like that scene in Scrooged when Bill Murray goes back to, and he's like, I'm going to get all weepy, and he sees his mom, and then he just starts crying. It's like, it's like these things are deeply rooted. And I think that's why people are that's why we're passionate about it. And I think we tried to capture that in the show.
So we all have these, right? Everyone's got their own set of things that elicit that kind of response. You are pouring gasoline on a fire when you add the word Disney to that, because I know some Disney adults. Like, I know people that their life, they've been to every park. They travel to Disney every year. They have kids who don't have a choice. Those kids are brought up in it. But the parents, like Disney lifers. So I guess what I'm getting at is, can we look forward to any violence at these auctions? Because, man, emotions are going to be running high.
It's not like a holiday sale or something where
okay,
stores are closing in 5 minutes. But it is very much a feel good type of a show. But it's interesting you say like the Disney stuff, because as a Disney fan too, when you're a part of Disney culture, you are it's one of the most interesting relationships to an audience, between a company and an audience, because we know that it is a commercial. Obviously, it has these really deep, these deep-rooted memories. But when we go to the Disney parks, we know that, like, they're going to release seasonal figures, they're going to release seasonal pop toys, they're going to release seasonal T-shirts, and we're just like, take my money. I know what this is. I know this is about, but we do it because we want to, have these things that we've assembled that really kind of revolve around, something that's meaningful to us. And if it's not Disney, like, everyone has something that they collect. It could be, a lot of baseball cards or like you said, Hot Wheels, or it could be Lego sets, or it could be whatever. As human animals, we have this, like, overdeveloped sense of, like, I can collect things around a theme and put them in the same place. And that is definitely something that's part of the storylines that we talk about in the auctions, but also just kind of unraveling, like, how these things are meaningful to people. So it really is just more about people spending money and just kind of like all the stories, and also like the Disney history of like, oh, the Dumbo ride car is up for auction. Here's how the movie Dumbo saved Disney when the movie came out. There's a whole story about that. So, the company that made the show with me, they made the toys that made us, the movies that made us, made Behind the Attraction for Disney Plus, the other shows were on Netflix. And so they really do understand, like, how to tell these stories in a really great way.
So up for auction, Chris, how many episodes are there?
There's 8 episodes. They're all about a half hour, so you can burn through them pretty fast, and it really is a fun. Like, the first half of the series is just kind of building up to the auction and assembling it and displaying it, and they do this great exhibition. And the last 3 episodes are spread out over 3 days.
Awesome. Perfect. It's always a pleasure, Chris. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Well, here's a little fun fact for you. He brought up the Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
Which actually got its start. That's a Minnesota-produced show. I don't know if you know that or not, right here in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that got its start, premiered on KTMA TV, which is now WUCW, which this show will be premiering on.
I saw. Wow. Yeah, really? Okay, right on. I saw Joel Hodgson. Yeah, I loved Mystery Science Theater. And I remember seeing Joel on HBO Young Comedians. You remember that show in the late 70s? It started, and the first time I saw, like Tim Allen, the first time I saw a lot of people that went on to have huge careers was on that show. And I saw Joel Hodgson, how do you say his last name? Hodgson, whatever. I saw him on that show. And he had this whole shtick about Agent J. He was like a secret agent and just the deadpan delivery. And I just remember thinking, this is the funniest guy I've ever seen in my life. And then I saw him like maybe on Letterman or a couple shows like that. And then nothing. He just like dropped off the face of the earth. Yeah. And then one day someone goes, have you seen Mystery Science Theater 3000? I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I was like, oh my God, that's that guy. I've been waiting years to see that guy again. Absolutely loved him.
Yeah, I got kind of a cult following here in the late 80s. And then, of course, Comedy Central and Bing Bang Boom. Pretty soon you've got, big-time comedians guesting in on that whole thing. And I forget how long he was with it. But, yeah, it was shot down. I want to say maybe, Candace, Chanhassen or something like that. Minnetonka, maybe.
Wow.
They filmed that. But, yeah. It's a homegrown. So, well, this is interesting because the Disney stuff, which, by the way, was my payback because Mom threw away all my Star Wars collectibles. Or not, she didn't throw them away. She gave them to the neighbor kid who destroyed them.
Right.
While I was off playing Army. But, I think about those too. And then he gets into the sentimental stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, now I feel bad because my mom gave me those. She gave me some other things too, including her beautiful brown eyes. But, I mean, I think about those dang things because those things are 50 years old, 40 plus years old now. Probably worth some money. Not that I'd ever sell them because they were a gift from my dear sweet mom, but
of course, not.
They got left behind in some box somewhere. I didn't do it intentionally.
I do remember thinking, and it was probably late 80s, early 90s when I started noticing, you'd go to any town you'd go to, you'd find that store that just had like a vintage store, but not for clothing, but for old stuff, just cool, hip. And I do remember at some point thinking like, wait a minute. I had all this crap as a kid, and no one said there'll be a market for this one day. It was just like the last thing on anyone's mind is that all the toys we grew up with would ever have a shelf life. It's like the next model is going to be cool. It's just like anything else. You just move on to the next thing. It's like shoes. Those are old. Get rid of them. And man, I look back at all the stuff that went through our house now. The Hot Wheels collection alone, not that we would have ever kept them in perfect condition because we used our toys. I mean, my God, we put them through the ringer. I was with a buddy a couple weeks over the holidays in Nashville, Tom Bukovac, one of the world's great guitarists. He's got a football card collection. Every single player in professional football from 1958 through 80.
Mind-boggling.
Every card. I was like, do you know how much these are worth? He's like, yes. I'm like, and it was his older brothers were collecting them, and in real time, they were just filing them in scrapbooks so they wouldn't get, fingerprinted up and stuff.
It's nostalgia. You talk about all the Silicon Valley nerds that are now grown and millionaires. They're going back and they're buying those old Atari games that were never opened for tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, it would behoove a parent to, there's that word again, to buy their kids, here's one toy for you to destroy, and then we're going to keep this one, and we're just going to pack this one away up in the attic, and it's going to stay in the case. And then when you're my age, all the rich kids that are your age are going to want to go back and buy these things still in the wrapper. But I don't know if anyone ever does that or not.
It's like they say, you can't put a price on nostalgia until you can.
Yeah, right.
And then, add a zero to whatever you think something should be worth.
Right.
Incredible.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.